Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Fringe Talk. The Rochester Fringe Festival lives on. COVID cannot stop the arts. So we're so excited to be with you this evening to talk about Black Lives Matter and the performing arts. We are so excited to be here. Fringe Talk is a new initiative of the KeyBank Rochester Fringe Festival. It's a four-part conversation featuring artists and art professionals discussing topical issues for those in the art community as well as the community at large. The Rochester Fringe Festival, for those of you joining us tonight, is a nonprofit organization. Its mission is to provide a platform for artists, and that includes diversity and inclusion. They're integral to the Rochester Fringe Festival's mission. Now, we all know that the arts provide a way for us to let loose and provide a way for communities, both large and small, to have conversations. And that's especially important, to exchange those ideas now. Fringe did not think it was appropriate to go dormant this year at all because of COVID. So what we're doing is we are socially distant. We are far apart, perhaps in miles, but we are closer than ever because of the arts. And that's why we are here tonight. Virtual Fringe is here. Please, if you are joining us tonight, this is interactive. We want to hear from you. Please, in the Q&A section, please let us know what you have a question about, and we'll get to as many questions as we can throughout the night. This is being simulcast on Zoom, on Facebook, and YouTube. Closed captioning is provided and available on Facebook. And if you're watching tonight and you are inspired by what you hear, we certainly would love your support. If you feel that you can and want to make a donation, we would love to receive that donation, and we thank you in advance. You can donate right on the homepage of the website by hitting donate. The link will be distributed in the chat area as well. Again, thank you so very much. I want to get right to my guests, my esteemed guests of the night. I'm so excited to introduce you to them. The first is Thomas Warfield of Rochester. He is a well-known name in our community, and we are so honored to have him tonight to discuss Black Lives Matter and the performing arts. Also with us, a woman who is no stranger to Rochester, Karen Brown, with us today. She was with Garth Fagan in Rochester years ago, and we love to have you back, Karen. Thank you for being with us. And Jason Nious, who is living out in the desert, literally. He's all the way joining us from Vegas tonight, and we are so glad to have him lend his voice to this mission. To my friends this evening, and I call you my friends because I feel close to you because as a performer myself for many years and a former journalist, there's a lot to talk about. So let's get started. All of you, Thomas, Karen, and Jason, if you could quickly introduce yourself to the audience to tell people exactly what you do now. Thomas, let's start with you.
Well, I'm the director of dance at RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology, and I run an organization called Peace Art International, and we do a lot of work with using the arts and creativity to foster world peace.
And Karen, if you could tell us, tell everybody about you and what you remember of Rochester.
Oh my goodness, what a good evening. I'm so happy to be here. What I remember about Rochester is that the Fringe Festival was my favorite thing to do. And at this time of year is the most beautiful time in Rochester. When I lived there, I was the executive director for Garth Fagan Dance. And since then, I've gone on to be an artistic director at Ballet Wichita, where I got an opportunity to build a brand new Nutcracker. I am currently a new assistant professor of dance at the University of Missouri in Kansas City. And I work with Sean McLeod on the Black Ballet Discovery Project. I'm very, very excited to be here and look forward to telling you more about the things that I've been doing.
All right, Jason.
Yeah, well, I've been all over the place, but yeah, being in Las Vegas for the past 14 years, I've been working with Cirque du Soleil as a performer, as Stomp, but right now I'm really just building and continuing to hone my own company. It's called Molodi. We're based in stepping and body percussion. We've been around for a while, this entire time that I've been in Las Vegas. And it's a beautiful thing because that's not the culture out here. So we find ourselves literally and figuratively in this desert of bringing this style of culture into this area. And it's a beautiful thing. It's kind of like how America feels, maybe. when you think of the Petri dish, let's drop this culture here. Let's drop this culture here. Let's drop this culture here, mix it all up and see what happens. We're kind of, feels like we're in an experiment being out here in the desert.
Wow, that's a great way to put it. I love that you are looking at the desert as an experiment, right? To bring something that's not there. Certainly all of you have been watching what's been happening in the news with the Black Lives Matter protests in your own communities. And of course, here in Rochester has made headline national news for what's been happening here in the case involving Danielle Ponder. But tonight we're going to talk about, from this struggle, what can come from it. And when it comes to the arts, what's possible. Certainly the arts and struggle and protest and social movements, the marriage of the two are nothing new, right? When we look at our history, right, Thomas?
Yeah, no, most assuredly. You know, I think about, well, Gordon Parks, for example, and his sort of documentary photojournalism, or the painter Basquiat, or even a song like Strange Fruit.
Yes.
And the sort of protest about lynching. So yeah, I think, you know, it's involved in our lives deeply. You know, I think actually being Black is a protest itself. You know, I think being Black in this country is itself a protest. And then saying that our lives matter is a sort of revolutionary thought. I mean, it wakes us up to a deeper meaning about being Black, actually, and the rest of this country. So the creativity has been with us from the beginning. We've had to creatively live these lives as Black people in this country since we've been here. We've had to creatively figure out, navigate how to live our lives. So creativity is an intelligence, I think, that we have honed.
Go ahead, Karen. You were going to say something.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Taking a deep breath in that and just kind of resonating with me. I grew up in Augusta, Georgia, and you know, in the early 60s, and certainly, as you said, Black Lives Matter. This is not a new thing. Our lives have always mattered, but it feels like with this movement that people are beginning to hear us with the technology that is available. I mean, these kinds of things have been happening always, but now that everybody has a cell phone, everyone's got a camera, it's hard to dispute or refute some of the evidence that is there. I certainly had my career with Arthur Mitchell at the Dance Theater of Harlem, and the impetus for even forming that organization was the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. And so and having grown up in the South, my parents were not from the South. I feel like I was the only Black person in everything that I did, from school to ballet to social organizations, et cetera. And so the way that you know, have to be twice as good to get half as much, you know, it's just something, a mantra that has been ringing in my ears. I've been taught all along, and I'm just loving the fact that in the Black Lives Matter movement, it's not just Black people, that there's an awakening and an awareness in the global community that supports this idea. And I'm very excited about that.
You know, I wonder, and Jason, if you want to weigh in on that, of course, please do. This is a very free-form conversation. I wonder, though, and perhaps any one of you can answer this question, you know, when we see what's happening in the world, you know, there can be a pessimism. And it doesn't seem like any one of you is pessimistic enough to shut down that creativity. It still flows from you, doesn't it? Despite maybe discouraging things that you see, right, on the news every night or on social media, or you haven't been discouraged, have you?
I have, to be honest, to be outright honest. I actually have. I went through about 3 months this summer because of everything that's been going on. What it has taught me, now I've come through. Come on, Jubilee. I have come through, and I just realized that about 2 weeks ago. And that was the first time, I think, in my life I felt that pessimism, that depression, that whatever that was over these past 3 months, it actually did affect me. And so, and I heard somebody talk about, they said, I'm not going to use black girl magic, black boy magic anymore, because we shouldn't have to be magic. We should just be able to just be alive and just be ourselves without having to be the best in the room, the smartest, the most, accomplished, or the highly skilled. We shouldn't have to. We should be allowed to just exist and still matter. How simple is all of this, really? Like, honestly, this is all we're actually asking, to just matter and just exist, right? On one level, right?
This is church.
I'll say that I'm actually, I know that I'm magical. I know that I am. I believe, and my parents taught know that almost like when T'Challa went to the UN and just said, and the question was, what can a farming town tell us? There's magic inside us. We were born with it, and there's a way that, I guess, for me during this time, and I know that I have a quality characteristic of being resilient. I probably had 15 jobs. My friends teach me, Karen Brown, you can't keep a job. But it's not that I can't keep a job. It's that I enjoy figuring new things out and using the capabilities that I have to master a thing, a system, and then there's another system that I'm interested in. So this whole thing and COVID-19, yes, as limiting as it has been, and fortunately for me, I have been from a young child able to entertain myself. My mom's like, you could sit out on that back porch by yourself for hours and entertain and figure out. So inside the pandemic and this time of being sheltering in place, I have been thinking about, well, how can I still broadcast, still get out there, still reach, still teach, still convey these ideas that have been given to me that I feel like I have a karmic debt to share. And if I allow myself to shut down, then I won't be able to give those things back. So I've been inside this space in sort of a curious kind of space to explore and examine, well, how can I still have the kind of impact, even within these constraints of COVID-19?
Mm-hmm.
That's the story of Black America. It really is.
Yes,
exactly. The analogy of us, bring us from over here, bring us
drag
every single thing that we know, our religion, our language, our songs, our drums, strip us of that, put us in a whole foreign place, and just say just work and just exist. And what if and it's kind of like the analogy of pour concrete all over all these beautiful flowers, yet you still see over centuries and centuries and centuries continuing to build and morph and grow and become something new and create something new. Come on, Black people in America.
Yes, you know what? That reminds me of hip hop culture. And here's this hip hop culture coming out of the South Bronx where people, I mean, the majority of our country really felt, that's a no place, the South Bronx. What can possibly come out of the South Bronx?
Mm-hmm.
Well, a whole change of American culture came out of the South Bronx. I mean, you just said it right there. We have created again and again and again and again. And I think each time that there is this challenge before us to take our lives for ourselves, then we create something that does it. We create a way to do it. And I think that's what's happening right now. I feel when I go on these protests and march with all of these young people sort of organizing everything, I mean, I'm looking at them like, oh my God. I mean, they are just taking this to a whole other world of understanding and awareness. And yeah, they are creating the next phase of what it will be like to live in this world.
Jason, when you talk about pouring concrete over all these flowers, yet there are still flowers that pop through. When you think about that, Black culture has been the basis for entire genres of music, and the Black experience has been, something that has inspired artists of all different races, and has been, you ask artists of different races, who was your inspiration, and they all name the same people, of color. And it's pretty amazing, right? When you think about it, you look at jazz, right? And the basis of that and how that came about. I love that analogy, though, like you said, that from that pain came these beautiful fruits, right? The fruits of that culture. So I'm curious to know, here in Rochester, there are a number of artists, of young artists who, are literally, Thomas, I'm gonna mention Danielle Ponder, okay? She's been at the protest. She's she's an attorney. She is an amazing singer. I mean, that's first and foremost, she's an amazing singer. But Danielle's voice is like the voice of these protests here in Rochester.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, she has been the voice of the protests in Rochester. And here again, I mean, if you think about the 60s, how the music really galvanized people. I mean, it really brought people together.
I'm black and I'm proud.
Huh?
James Brown. I'm James Brown.
James
I'm black
Brown.
and I'm proud.
Yeah, I mean, the music, the dancing, the expression of who we are. I mean, I think that's really what's happening. The expression of who we are mobilizes us. It sort of infuses us with this kind of need, I guess, to kind of tell the world who we are, it's one thing, I think, to understand that Black Lives Matter, but it's another thing to see it, to hear it, to feel it, to understand it from an expressive place. And once something is expressed, you really know it. And I think that's what's been happening when I see, like Danielle Ponder, that's perfect example. When she starts to sing at one of these protests, everyone, the world there's nothing else going on in the world but her voice at that moment. And I think that's the power of the arts and in protest.
Right. And from that protest can come so many things, right? Hopefully the change that the protesters seek, hopefully a better understanding between people, right? That isn't there now. Because I think there's anger, but there's also, and do you feel that in through these protests, there is both anger and hopefulness being expressed, and then that's kind of how art is. Art expressed both anger and hope, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's unpack that. I see Jason. I could see the wheels turning in your head. I mean, you've been real honest, Jason. You're being real honest. I sense in you, Jason, that you are admitting, look, I was mad and I was not happy, and I'm only just come through, right?
That's the truth. You put it into one. Yes, that just happened to me. But from what you just said, the first thing that popped in my mind was Solange, her album last year, and what that was. It showed such a range of Black pain, but not in this crying, weeping mother that we always see, or not in this rage. You usually see these two types of pain amongst Black people. That's what you usually see. She showed this other. I think that's why it resonated so much, because it's all there. It's all there, when she's singing, and it's just this soft, kind of like glow across the screen. And then she just starts breaking out dancing, freestyle, not choreographed. You feel all of that amongst that. As an artist, she kind of nailed it. That's the thing that just popped out as you were talking. Yeah. I was like, yeah, that's what she did. She nailed it. And we felt that. Whether we know how to put words on it or not, we felt exactly that. It's that range of pain, right, and that range of expression.
Sounds like she was able to articulate, describe, and make us feel her humanity. Because often Black people are separated from humanity. We're something else. And there's so many examples of people who have thought of us in that way, and the experimentation on our bodies, and that if we think about painkillers that we're given when we go to the doctors because we don't feel pain, that we somehow are separated from humanity. And sounds like Solange was able to let us see the authenticity. We're not a monolithic, we are humans. We have all sorts of emotions. and they're similar to what you're experiencing. So I am like you. My life matters just as much as your life matters. One of the things that when you were speaking earlier, I am, when you're saying there's hope and there's pain, I am certainly encouraged by the young people and their organization and the way that they are using these tools that are available to us to get their cause out, get their message out, etc. And I'm really, because sometimes the information that's coming is so one-sided. There's so much of our history that's not in the books that people don't know, but I feel that our young people are learning their history, understanding the shoulders that they stand on, and realizing the possibilities of what they can, and taking the tools that are available right now to catapult us forward into, as Thomas said, the future of how we're all going to deal with what our lives have become.
I mean, if you think about young people have, hopefully have learned from parts of history, right, where they witnessed people protesting, right, and maybe that's the basis for what they do. I hope, right? I hope that they looked at the past in considering how to act today and how to best get their message out. But young people today and artists today have, a whole new way to reach out to spread that message using social media. It's not a central dissemination point for that message anymore. It's not. It's not the nightly news. It's not that. It's it's hard to even keep up on social media when you've got a movement. It's like choose your voice. Pick
wherever they are. They're on Instagram, they're on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's important, I think, that we were talking about the young people leading the protest. I see how important it is that they're given that space. Because I think sometimes when we come up against challenges, they force us to make meaning out of our lives. Just like creating works of art, it kind of forces you to make meaning out of what you're thinking and feeling and understanding or not understanding. And so I feel like the protesting is also doing this. It is a creative act that you're throwing yourself into. I mean, they stayed up all night at the City Hall, sleeping at City Hall on the steps of City Hall. And I feel like that is a creative act that is fulfilling a meaning for someone's life. I mean, giving life meaning and purpose. And I think it restructures your whole thinking when you've got a challenge here and you got to figure out, how do I make this better?
Right.
That's a creative thinking. That's creative thinking. Just like making a work of art.
And from that creativity, I'm curious. I wonder what will be born from this creatively. What will we see? Paintings, poetry, music. Just the other day in Rochester, Karen and Jason, there was classical musicians performing on a corner with the protesters all around them. It was it was surreal to see on social media, because I thought, well, I guess you can take classical music and music can be played anywhere, but there they were, right on a street corner performing that classical music. And it was to the delight of the audience, right? There have been DJs performing at night, dance parties at night at these protests. Artists like Danielle Ponder, who have been the voice of the protests. And I'm curious, what's going to be born from this, right? What kind of creative juices are flowing now in people, because they're inspired, like you said, Thomas, right? Like you said, Karen, from that collective experience must come some kind of creativity. Jason, I know that as a performer still do you draw from that energy?
Yeah, immersive theater, just to put a name on top of it,
Yes.
How it's coming out of the buildings and everybody sitting facing one way and looking at shows that way, to atmospheric, to you the audience walk through and you experience this world all around you. Now you have to participate. There's no way that you cannot participate. So that's one way that the art is already moving that way, And I really do believe that since COVID and since all of the protests and Black Lives Matter, it's going to have to go more that way. I also believe that it's going to be through technology as well. The interaction, you know, like everybody's heard of Pokemon Go. That phone game, I don't play it. I've never played it. I've never.
Are you sure, Jason? I don't know. You brought that up, and I was like,
well, I'm just saying that's a possibility, right? That's an interactive, immersive game that you in your phone, you know, but you go out to the park and you find things, but it makes you mobile. It makes you interact. So it's not just traditional theater. It's not just traditional dance. Open the curtains, everybody watches, applauds, and then it closes.
okay.
We've evolved. It's always going to have a place, obviously, traditional theater and dance. But where we're going now and what's already been happening, oh my goodness, you talk about Pandora's box. Yeah, we're here.
I like that you said that. Yeah, once you've opened the door to this possibility, because think about it. And you know, Jason, we were talking earlier. I said, what's Vegas like? You know, what was Vegas like during COVID? You're like empty, right? In the beginning, but it forced people to be creative. Yeah. And this is not going away. This is not going away, is it? Right? And there will be performances that people witness, and whether it's interactive or immersive, but we will be entertained this way in the future, right?
We will.
Yeah. How does that make you feel, Thomas? I mean, I'm sorry, Karen, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, just to comment on what I am aware of is that this COVID-19 has leveled the playing field. We are all Zooming, right? So it doesn't matter how much money you have, how big your resources are, you're still Zooming in that same little rectangular box. And so people who are, I mean, there are small companies that can make broadcast centers, and there are big companies that make broadcast centers. The way that we even consume art has changed. Ailey, Dance Theater of Harlem, me, Sean, Thomas, Jason can do something, and then it's a replay. It's on for a week. You don't have to come the night that I did it, but you can still see it. There's a way that the playing field have leveled, and everybody can be performing and be seen. And I really am excited about that.
That feels much like Fringe, doesn't it? Like the origins of Fringe, of the Fringe Festival, right? It was those people that, you know, they weren't getting attention elsewhere, but they found a stage, you know.
You know, somebody just asked a question about, sort of follows along what you were saying, Karen, about how, if we find anything online, performances online that inspired us. And actually, while you were just talking, I was thinking about I think it was Ailey that did the thing where they would toss the shoe to the next person, or the ballet slipper. I don't know if it was Ailey, but it was some company. I tell you, I watched that over and over and over. You know, so they were on Zoom or wherever they were, you know, and they did their little dance part, and then they tossed the shoe and somebody got it on another screen.
Yeah.
I thought, wow, this is really, they're still creating in the space that they're given. And that's the artist. I mean, you know, last spring, when we went on, we had to move our classes online. So all my dance classes went online. And so I started giving my students, you know, assignments that had to do with, I mean, they were all over the place, you know, and all over the country, different countries even. And they didn't have the same, they didn't have a big dance studio or anything. So I gave them assignments like, you know, how do you create in a small space, under a table, on top of a refrigerator, in a closet, you know, whatever. And they created
Sounds like my childhood, Thomas.
I know, that's the games that we played as little kids.
Sounds
yes, exactly. That's how I thought of it.
Yep.
Great assignment. Wow.
Oh yeah, that's very creative.
Here's another question to the panel. How do you feel the performing arts will change after 2020, both in terms of COVID and Black Lives Matter? We've been talking about how you can't put, you know, stuff Pandora back in the box, right? I mean, the box has been opened, and now there is this creativity that's not going to go away, like Jason said. And this will open up opportunities for different kinds of art experiences in the future. But perhaps maybe you can all take a turn answering about, you know, how does Black Lives Matter impact the arts, and how is that going to change post, 2020 and beyond?
Well, being Black, I love seeing on these streaming Netflix and all these streaming services that now they have, okay, Black Lives Matter, they have the Black movies, the Black shows featured. They moved them from the back of the pile, they put them right up front because the world has been saying and been tweeting and been texting and been everything that we want more of this. We need more of this education. I think it's coming from they want to know because of what's been going on, especially because of sparked by George Floyd's death. But so the awareness and I think the rest of the world wants more of it, and I'm seeing that these streaming services are replying and they're saying, here it is, here's a title for it, here's easy to find, click and boom, 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 your favorite actor, your this, or just anything like. So I see the streaming services already responding that way.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm a theater artist. I actually majored in theater as an actor. I'm doing we're not going to call it a performance because what we're calling it, this is funny to me when I talked to the producer last week, we're calling it's an essential dialogue with the community preceded by atmospheric dialogue. Ooh. Preceded by atmospheric dialogue. So what is that? That's the text from the play in an immersive space with the audience inside of it, but we do go through the text of the play. So it's theater, but it's in this community activated, creative, immersive space. Outdoors, distanced, everything, but that's one way, like where I'm directly involved with something that is adapting to the times right now, And so, but the dialogue is the important thing, and the talkbacks are the important thing. The talkbacks are probably going to be longer than the actual. Yeah, so that's it's by the Lab Theater right here in Las Vegas, and
nice.
And it goes up pretty soon. So I actually have rehearsal right after this.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, there's no shame in that plug, Jason.
Come on.
Yes, I would say I found that there is more opportunity. Well, first I want to comment on the streaming services and the content that is specifically put out there for audiences of color. That I believe that the powers that be have realized the power of the Black dollar and the money that can be made by presenting content that people of color want to see. Then I also think that that one of the things that it allows is how the performing arts is going to change. I know for me, I've been able to produce content at a more affordable cost because of it's broadcasting through Zoom. And so to be able to honor elders, to be able to, so I could go and do a performance at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine and honor my Black executive coach. But the choreography was all done on Zoom. But all of the rehearsals, the rehearsals were done on Zoom. And then I went to New York and did the performance. To be able to work with Baruti in Augusta, Georgia, to do a performance that's raising awareness of the mental health issues in the Black community and do a tribute to Nina Simone. Yes. So those kinds of things, we're able to do more things because we don't have to have those budgets that we used to have where you fly everybody in, put them in a hotel per diem, rent the space, all of that. So there's a way that we're able to generate more content because we're using the technology. And then lastly, I'll say in this comment that I believe that it is possible now that dancers could be in more than one company. They can be in more than one production because you can rehearse online, and we could have the top Black dancers in the world could come together and do a piece. They come together and do, let's say, an iconic work, Jeffrey Holder's Douglas, Fall River Legend, Revelations, that is a possibility that I'm looking forward to. It's very similar to what Thomas was describing about this point. Well, there was a point sheet, so they did it with men and with women. Ailey also did where they're passing the point sheet, and then it's a whole different scene, a whole different dancer in a whole different place. And then also one of the ones that I really enjoyed was when the women of Ailey did Cry. They were in all different spaces and they did this work. It was just beautiful. So there are lots of possibilities of things that we can do. And I think that the creative ones of us are thinking not what we can't do, but what can we do now? This is how we can show up.
I think Black Lives Matter is really about equity. And so it's really brought the idea of equity to the forefront. And so no longer really do, especially main institutions, arts institutions, feel like they can hide behind, you know, a statement, or they actually have to do something. They've got to put people of color on their boards. Ballet companies have to hire Black ballet dancers. Orchestras have to have Black players. I mean, it's no longer passable to not do this. And so I think this is one of the things that has grown out of the, also, of course, Black organizations are growing leaps and will be, I think, growing leaps and bounds. But also what will happen, I think, with these institutions, these main institutions, is they're changing. They're realizing that they cannot stay the dinosaurs that they are. And they have got to now broaden not only their audience, but they've got to broaden who they are. And I think that's one of the things that's starting to evolve from Black Lives Matter. The other somebody asked a question about if you in your career were you ever held back or something. So I have a little quick story about a time I auditioned for a Broadway production, and the director said to me, it was three guys, we were up for this role, and the director said to me, "Can you act blacker?" I kid you not. This was not that. This was, I don't know, maybe late 80s. He says, "Can you act blacker?" And I didn't even say a word. I picked up my bag, I went to the door, and I said, "I am Black," and I went out. But I don't feel like that, you know, prevented me from having a career or anything. It's just that that's the kind of thing, though, when I say we're up against these challenges daily, that then it gives it gave me a reason to understand my own meaning as a human being, my integrity, my dignity. And it's like, heck no, I'm getting out of here. You're not gonna talk to me like this. So I believe that what's happening now with Black Lives Matter is it's kind of integrating in a way, because you see so many different demographics out in protesting: Black people, white people, gay people, straight people. I mean, everyone's kind of out there with a revolutionary thought or revolutionary idea. And I saw Sean McLeod just said something about all of us are working together. And that's exactly what is happening. I think that's what makes this a little different than the past.
Right.
I mean, we know the past got us to where we are, but now the idea is all liberation is connected, you know, and the oppressor and the oppressed now need to figure out they're both in a pull here. We got to change the system that makes oppression all together. And so I think that's what's going on. That's my 2 cents about it.
That's brilliant, Thomas. That's brilliant. But what I heard you say too is that this whole movement is changing the idea of what it is to be Black. So do you think, in a way, there is a big bug here, and it better not come near me. Security, please get that bug. No, what I mean to say is, he did. What I mean to say is that, Thomas, someone says to you to, act blacker. Well, what does that mean? Could you
well, of course I knew what he meant.
Yeah,
but I wasn't about to give that any energy.
No, right.
That kind of thinking is the reason that we had Black Lives Matter. That kind of thinking of limiting who people are by somebody else's idea of them is no longer feasible. That's what Black Lives Matter has brought. The thinking about Black people are like this, or Black people are like that, or we got to keep Black people here, we can't have them do this. That thinking is now eroding because of Black Lives Matter. So.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant is that, you know, I mean, I'm just, and by the way, RIP to that bug that we just, you know, because it had to go. RIP. RIP big bug. It looked like a daddy long legs, but some of the questions here are wonderful. And, you know, Erica asked about, are there any celebrities that you're finding to be inspirational during this time? Jason, you mentioned Solange. How about this? And I'm curious to know your thoughts on this one question. Some performing arts organizations have decided to not present work, quote unquote, in support of Black Lives Matter. What do you feel about that? Does that speak to you?
What's their reason?
In support. They don't want to take away attention from, perhaps. They don't want to, I know organizations have said, you know what, you know, so as not to take attention away from the protests, we're not going to put a performance up, or we're not going to, this was in the early days, I would say this was what I remember hearing this. But does that resonate with you? Like, we're not going to take
what's the purpose? What is the what's advantageous about that? I mean, I don't know what the benefit is here. I mean, yeah, okay, you're in solidarity, I guess. I mean, I don't see what's the benefit in what, not giving the performers jobs? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's the benefit there.
Here, we won't employ these people because we're out of respect for Black Lives Matter. It's like, no, thank you, hire them, please employ them. You know,
yes.
You're not doing anybody any favors that way. Right.
I mean, it's hard to be inside of people's heads, just to give them the benefit of a doubt. You know, like, if you don't know their mission, I don't judge them just off of that one choice. Like, I don't know that whole organization. I don't know their mission, what style of whatever they intend to produce or present. You know, so honestly, I'm a little bit on the side of, if I just heard that from any one organization, I'm going to give them the benefit of a doubt first, you know. But there's so many other creative things that they can do if that's part of their mission, you know. They could do readings. They don't have to do full-scale productions, you know, or they could seek out, you know, or just, you know, like people of color or people whose voices can be, you know, presented or heard in any way, in any sort of way. Just discussions are good, you know. So, I mean, I've kind of seen both sides, you know. I think I've chosen not to crack their whip on those, you know, just for the blanket statement, we're going to step back while all the Black voices step forward.
Okay.
I'm not going to judge them first off, because I don't know, you know.
Okay. I like that. You're saying, look, let's give them the benefit of the doubt and let's take advantage of that and not criticize it. Because there are some people who would say, you know, now that, like Thomas said, institutions cannot, you know, have one Black person and be like, oh, look, we hire Black people, right? You know, and that's no longer enough to just have that one token, you know, and I hope I'm not stepping in some sticky stuff right now, but I'm gonna go there, okay? But what I'm saying is, you're saying, look, it doesn't feel like when they are adding people of color, when they are attempting to diversify and be more inclusive, you're not saying it feels like pandering, right? You're saying, no, let's celebrate that. This is the time, right? We need to seize the moment.
Well,
I think we have a good example with American Ballet Theater that just promoted Calvin Royal to principal and gave Cher to soloist. Those dancers have been in that company for years. And to me, I felt like ABT was putting their money where their mouth was. I know internally they were having discussions about what can we do and how do we need to show up differently. And it just feels like they heard the voices of these artists and they could look and see, hey, we need to promote them. I mean, for reasons that they should have been promoted even before. Yes, right. It looks good, it works for them to promote them now, but those dancers deserve those promotions no matter when they came. And if it takes Black Lives Matter movement for ABT to promote them, then I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas, you expressed a little, you were expressing perhaps some hesitation. You know, you were thinking like, well,
you know, Jason's right. We don't know what's in their heart, what's in their mind. But on the face of it, you know, I just gotta say, what are you trying to get here? Where are you going with this? I mean, we're at a time where optics is so important. I don't know what exactly, unless you're saying something, I don't know what you're saying. You know, by the action, I'm not really sure what that, where is the benefit? Like, what is this? How does this benefit it? That you're not showing a performance because you're in solidarity with Black Lives Matter? Well, that's good, but what does it do for Black Lives Matter? I mean, I don't see the actual, and maybe there is something, I have no idea, but just from the optics of it, just from the face of it, I can't see what the purpose is there. You know, it seems to me we ought to be doing more performances than less. This is a time in our country where we need more dance, we need more music, we need more theater. I mean, not less. We need, this is what gets us through. This is what reinvigorates us.
Right.
The creative, the arts are the thing that moves us forward.
Yeah.
So we don't need less, we need more.
Okay. Are you concerned about the arts training of young Black artists who are now no longer able to train in person? Is there a way to solve this? Is one of the questions from the audience. You know, are you concerned about the arts training of young Black artists who are now no longer able to train in person? Is there a way to solve it?
I am concerned about it, and one of the ways that I am solving it in my new position as an assistant professor at the Conservatory at the University of Missouri at Kansas City is by bringing in an accelerated learning technique created by a Black man that works in training dancers in small spaces. It's called reinforced motor function for ballet application. And I'm really happy to bring that to academia. I've been studying it for the last 3 years. I believe this is a ballet plug-in that really works for strengthening alignment, flexibility. And so that's one solution. Each person will need to do what they can. But for the students that I have been working with just over the last 3 weeks, who are doing a hybrid sort of training, 6 in the studio, 6 zooming in, and then 6 or 8 somewhere in the world. It is a training, a technique that can be done in a small box to keep dancers, and not just Black dancers, but all artists are going to have to figure out how to keep their, still be relevant when we figure out what's going to happen with concert dance. So that's one solution. You train using that technique in that curriculum.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll just tag on the end of that because what she mentioned, the motor, what is it?
Reinforced motor function for ballet application.
So that, you know, of Sean McLeod over at the New York Institute of Dance and Education. And you know, Sean actually is a good person for us to really look at because he has had a way over the years of creating in the New York Dance Festival, a way of integrating demographics, integrating different dance styles, and integrating the idea of not only building a dancer, but sort of cultivating, nurturing a human being, a person. And so I think that kind of individual training is not just about the arts, not just about the artist, but it's about the human as artist. I think that may be, and having to do things like, you know, online now in these little boxes, they do have to become something about the individual. And how the individual fits into the group, not how the group needs an individual, you know? So that may be something that we're now kind of having to move ourselves into thinking about.
Mm-hmm. It seems like this, there's so much at play. I mean, you have a pandemic, you have a social movement, you have new technology, and it's all happening at the same time, and everyone's trying to find their way. Black Lives Matter is in person, right? The protests are in person, right? They're not done from a distance. So, you know, I marvel at that. I just look at, it's all happening at the same time. And yet from all of this chaos, if you will, right, there comes new, you know, I love that analogy, Jason, about the flowers coming up through the concrete, you know, and that there's still going to be that rebirth coming from all of this movement. And it sounds like all of you are dedicated to making it happen in your own sphere and in your own square, literally, right? Where you are in, you are going to make it happen. I know, Thomas, you are in a performance at this year's Rochester Fringe Festival. Jason, you are as well, I understand?
Yeah, shot spear. Yeah.
Shot spear?
Shot spear.
Wait to
Matthew
see.
Morgan, yes, yeah. My company, Molodi, it's so silly. It was fun. We actually laughed so much on that day. And I thought about it later. In scope of this entire summer, that was one of the days that we just laughed out loud so much. So, and we needed that, you know? And I heard what you said, Tom. It's like just living your Black life is protest. Living your Black life is revolutionary.
Yeah.
Wow.
In this country it is, you know, so to actually just be able to just laugh, whew, okay, Rochester Fringe, that's what we're giving you.
You know, that.
We're gonna be acting silly on there, but yeah, but it was fun. It was fun. Yeah.
Okay, look at this question. Do you think we can laugh anymore? Yeah, I'm gonna take that as yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Karen, you feel that is, I mean, yeah, we talked about this before we even began.
Oh yeah, I mean, I try to make sure I have 4 good laughs today, and if something doesn't happen in the present time, I remember something that made me laugh. So that I can have that feeling of euphoria, right? There's so many things around us that are happening, from, you know, being in a new job, new city, and all that is going around in the world. I mean, you should even think about some of the transitional things when people are making their transition and you can't even be with your loved ones to comfort them. They, you know, if you try to concentrate on, there are many, many things that we can't do anymore. So to be able to think about what we can do and a laugh, I mean, it's infectious. It impacts everyone around you. So you got to be able to have some laughs that you can save and remember in case nothing happens in that day.
Yeah.
I find a lot of laughs, and maybe you could share with me your favorite sources of laughs. I find my sister will send me TikToks that she sees, you know, that stuff on TikTok. There's just, I mean, it's ridiculous. And there I am laughing, throwing my head back. So I really feel like that it adds some levity to what is a very heavy time, isn't it? And we need those bits of levity because it can get heavy, and you know, our mental health can suffer as a result. And you know, Karen, you talked about mental health throughout all of this, right? We all need to check in with ourselves. I mean, Jason, you're very open about it. You're very open, and you're not afraid to say, look, I wasn't feeling great. I'm feeling better now, but it took a hot minute, right?
We actually had a therapist come to our rehearsal, and we had a 3-hour rehearsal, and this was last week, like not many days ago. The entire first hour was just spent with time with the therapist, her asking us questions, us answering in terms of our character, but also our real lives, dealing with the subject matter. And the subject matter is Black Lives Matter. The play is by Antoinette Nwandu, and it's called Passover. And it is exactly about what we're talking about right now, you know? So because it's so connected, because my individual, you know, separate from anybody else, like I've been affected this summer, you know, through all these events. And then, you know, and our director making it a point to have a therapist on call, and we can have our own private sessions. We had a group session, you know, on that day, but we have up to 4 more private sessions that the theater company is paying for.
Wow.
That we as actors could continue to present the story, which is our job, our professional job, and we as people can still be sane and still be right, you know, by the end of it, and be able to process all of this. So you talk about mental health is the key to everything, and talking is the thing. You know, I talk with my cousin a lot. She's in Texas. You know, I actually went out there, painted with her, did all kind of things just to get through this summer. And that's what was necessary. It wasn't like that last year. I didn't need to do all this maintenance, but this year I did, to where I can say again, Jubilee, I've come through, you know? So yeah, it's the key to everything. You gotta stay here. You gotta stay with us. And if you're falling by, we gotta be each other's friends. We gotta pull each other up, because we gotta make it through. We have to make this through. You know?
Yeah. Thomas, we lost you briefly, but you're
Yes,
back.
I'm back.
We have about 5 minutes left, and someone asked real quickly, do you feel that all rehearsals will start that way moving forward? And that's the question to Jason about, the mental health check. How's everybody doing? Where you at in your headspace, right?
I know.
I do that now every day with my students. How are you feeling? Yeah, go ahead, Karen. Yeah.
I was going to chime in and say the same here, which is I do check in with my students. As we're all logging in, checking our placement, can I see you on the camera? We do a little check-in, and then at the end of the class as well, just kind of checking in to just see. And that brings us together, because when you're in class together, someone, just as an example, is getting a note, everyone is there watching, learning, absorbing. You can feel the energy about who got it, who didn't get it. And when I have to talk around at the end, it's a way of creating community that we don't have in the studio together, but to just take time on that camera and say, what did you get out of it? How are you doing today?
I'll ask each one of you the last question, and someone brought this up too, what your hopes are for the future. And you look at what's going on right now, but let's shoot, 6-7 months into the future, right? In 2021, what is your hope for the future based upon what is happening today, what we're seeing today socially, but also in the artistic world as well, and in the arts? So we'll start with you, Thomas.
Well, I guess my hope is that we forge a new way, that we create a new path, a new understanding with one another, that we create a new way to do art, a new way, something that we didn't do before. I really want us to come out of this time with a different perspective, a different understanding, a different, something different. I want us to be doing not what we did last year, to be doing it now in a different way, with a different perspective, a perception that's totally changed because of what we've just gone through. So I really hope that we are, well, I know we'll still be creating, but I hope we'll be creating in a way that's new and different.
How about you, Jason?
I hope that now that we are and streaming services and people are putting Black stories at the forefront, not that it's going to last forever, but just on the optimistic side, that these stories continue. Yeah, sorry.
Maybe it will last forever. I'm just saying.
I hope it will. I hope it does. But like now that these stories are being put front, I hope that the people who are consuming them is a range of everybody. Nobody's excluded from that they listen and they see us in the broader spectrum that we actually are, not this pinpoint, all Black people are that way. Yes, of course, that's an old school idea, whatever, but kind of like Solange, all these nuances, all these different people, There's one line in my play where the white man says, well, first of all, I don't even understand what all white people mean. I'm just one person. That line, apply that, consume all of this Black art that is being put to the forefront right now. Everybody from every culture, every demographic, see yourself in those people's shoes. And I heard a good friend, Clyde Evans, we were on a Zoom yesterday. We're working on a project for 2 years from now. But he put it this way. He said one of his professors told him, your style of dance is like the people who are learning your style of dance get to try on your life. Yes, I'm stealing that straight from him. That's not mine. They're trying on your life through your art. That's what I hope that us as artists and our productions continue to do in these next years, because of this awakening of what's happened this summer, this worldwide awakening. I hope that they actually see and they don't disconnect. They feel and they see what has happened to that Black person on that camera, on that stage, through that story. That's my hope.
Wow, Jason, that's amazing.
Empathy, humanity, that's my hope.
Yeah.
That's the last. I'm sorry.
You get the last word, Karen.
And as the last one to have a comment, I just feel like just cascading from Thomas to Jason to what I hope will happen is that, number one, artists will come out of the pandemic being more highly revered, that the world will remember that what got you through the pandemic was the work of artists, that we a world will have a global perspective, since we are now almost on an even playing field with this Zoom and what's happened, and that we will have a global awareness that that every life is valuable. Yes, Black Lives Matter, but because of my travels outside the United States and being revered as a Black person outside of the States, that the world has a global perspective on the value of life, and that we take better care of Mother Nature, that we think about and learn how to preserve the planet that we are inhabiting, so that it will be there for future generations.
It's all connected, isn't it?
It's all connected, absolutely.
Isn't it all connected? I cannot thank you three enough for your candor, your vulnerability, your honesty, and your hopefulness. Thank you for all of those things that you brought to us tonight, to the audience, and not to just, to people all over who are watching tonight. This has been a true education for me, and I hope for those of you who are watching at home or wherever you're watching this broadcast from, that you get what, get something from tonight's Fringe Talk. And there are others on the way. So we were kicking it off. So thank you so much. The others have big shoes to fill after tonight. So Karen, Jason, and Thomas, thank you so very much. I truly appreciate your time. Okay. Yes.
Thank
yes, Thomas.
you. Thank you so much. Wow.
From my heart to yours.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And best of luck with your performances. Everyone have a wonderful evening. We're going to turn off the stream for now. We'll see you in the next Fringe Talk. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.